So yeah, I think quite interesting topic to make it a bit more tangible rather than having just a basic training or something, really focusing on specific topic. Yeah, I mean, Larissa, you know me, but maybe not
Mhm.
everyone here yet. So my name is Timo. I'm a solution engineer here at AG5. And basically what I do is I work with customers after they signed with us. So I'm managing the onboarding. And then also as a dedicated solution engineer, stay with them after onboarding. So we have regular sessions, see how everything's going, and see how we can further yeah, help our customers to mature in their skills management journey. And if they have anything big coming up like audit, we help them to prep. If they're adding a new machine line, new factory, new department, we make sure that we set this up together in AG5. So basically, I'm there to take you by the hand and walk you through everything that might yeah, concern you with the setup of AG5.
Nice. And you've also been with AG5 for what, how many years now? Two, three,
Two,
two,
2.5 by now. So
2.5 years
um,
of experience.
yeah, and by now I would say I would challenge you or anyone to throw something at me I haven't seen yet. Yeah. So all the
You've seen everything.
crazy the craziest Excel sheets, the most complex requirements set up. So I would say so far I've seen everything, but that's good, right? At first it's a bit getting into cold water, but then you say, no problem, right? We can do that. So
Yeah,
that's good. Also, if you
it
might
sounds,
work with
yeah,
with larger manufacturing clients and they say, yeah, we need this, and say, yeah, no problem. So that's a good feeling.
yeah. Lots of demands. I'm sure you've seen it all. Well, my introduction won't be as long as yours. I'm just part of the marketing team. I'm a demand generation specialist, and I'll be joining Timo today to moderate the chat, get your questions answered, and make sure we stay on track. Oh, before we start, we also have to let you know that it's about a 45-minute session. And yeah, you can use the chat to ask us any questions, share your thoughts. And yes, the webinar recording and slides will be shared after the session. So please stay to the end for a brief demo and a good surprise.
Yeah. So like you said, right, we're going to start with some slides and everything, but actually the main part will be working, of course, within AG5 to see what we can do to address, yeah, the needs of a connected workforce in manufacturing. And yeah, thanks, Larissa, for putting together all that information from the different manufacturing reports here, right? With McKinsey, we have the Manufacturing Institute, and basically that's also what I see in a classic onboarding kickoff. To say, okay, hey, it's getting tough to manage a really demanding and connected manufacturing enterprise, right? You have labor shortages or high turnovers. That's also something we see a lot of with US customers. Roles are changing, right? So what used to be an operator, I lately heard the catchphrase, and I was really grateful for that. Not every operator is created equal, right? So you have an operator, but then you have an operator working in area A and area B, and they have different requirements. And say, no, but we have operator. How can we solve this? And that's doable, but of course you need a kind of yeah sophisticated software solution to do that. And then, of course, like compliance, right? It's, I think, generally a good thing that we make sure that, right, everyone can work safely and most productively, especially like, of course, if you're in the food industry or med manufacturing, right? Also defense stuff. So yeah, you need to comply with the ISO requirements. It does make sense, but of course, it can also be overwhelming. So if you don't have the right tooling there, that can be challenging, but this is basically where we exist to address these kinds of challenges. Um, yeah, if you don't have a proper tool, right, I frankly would not want to work as a shift lead or a team lead there, right? Having my Excel sheet and trying to keep track of all that, right? Because I can't see stuff, right? Are we complying with the requirements that we have in order to operate a machine? Right, I have different people in different job roles in my team, right? What comes off top from that? So I've all different directions where the requirements for my workflows are coming from. And if I have to track this in a single sheet, I mean, good luck. And then I have to spend a lot of time on admin stuff, which I don't want to do, right? I haven't
Nobody wants
gotten
to do that.
into the industry to
Yeah.
do that. I want to be on the floor, like making sure that you're producing the right stuff, right? That everybody is doing their job properly. Maybe crack a joke. But I don't want to be sitting at my desktop, like trying to figure out Excel sheets all day long when that's right, not what I'm being paid to do actually. And yeah, these are some customers I and my colleagues work with, right? So Henkel, for example, I'm currently working with, and this is really what we try to understand in the kickoff, right? So what is the pain point? And these are just some examples of what actual pain points are, right?
And yeah, Timo,
Certificates, yeah, sure.
when a new customer reaches out, what's usually the break point? Is it audits? Is it skill gaps? Or is it something that pushes them to act?
Yeah, usually it's sometimes that you say, okay, we've tried to manage that in an Excel sheet, and that's fine if you have a team of 10, 15 people, but once you grow, right, it can also be a curve. You're too successful, right? So we experience growth, that's great. But then, right, the further you grow, the more people you get, the more yeah,
Complicated.
compliance requests you have,
Yeah.
and then sometimes you figure out, hey, that is not working anymore. So this is usually you've grown out of having a couple of Excel sheets. This is usually what I see. Of course, it can be say, hey, the auditor said, right, that is not acceptable how you manage your skills here, and that can also be, of course, something. But hopefully, you're proactive and act before that happens. But I've seen both. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So there are all kinds of reason. Grown out is, I would say, that the positive one. Being punished by an audit is the negative one. So can come from all angles. And the good thing is, right, all the labels you can see here, we've worked with them and we've yeah met with what kind of pain points they came towards us. So I think we can be quite happy and proud of what we are achieving there. Yeah, otherwise, right, guess it's fairly clear. You want to be manufacturing, you want to be producing good stuff and not be tied down by regulations, right? So if it's easy to comply with them, that's nice. But if not, that can be really hard and delay your production, right? If you suddenly find out that, I don't know, all your first aid certificate expired, right, and you can't operate, that's a problem. High turnover is something I hear all the time, right? So that's really, really challenging. Cost, of course, right? I mean, AG5 isn't free, but compared to what you otherwise have to pay, it's, I think, a good bargain. Yeah, and then the constant dread of the next audit, if you can get that out of your system, I think it's a nice feeling. If you say, hey, I have audit coming up and I feel well
You're
prepared.
ready for it.
You're ready
Yeah.
for it, right? Um, yeah, so right, if customers come towards us, they do track skills, right? They do have some kind of skill management, but usually it's something, yeah, like I said, you've grown out of. So for example, in an HR tool, yes, you can set a curriculum what someone needs, but that only then targets one aspect, right? So if it's in a job role, but it doesn't address what, okay, if they're working a machine or in a line or shift, so it's very one-dimensional. So, right, HR tools, they have their right to exist, but for HR purposes, right? So if you want to focus on skills management, then rather sooner than later you reach a limit. Um, Sheets, the classic spreadsheet there. Also, again, for managing very limited amount, it's okay, but again, they are really hitting a ceiling soon. And then the third one, the the sheets with all the different aspects for a machine. That's also something I see when we prepare trials. And also there, right? If you just from the look at it, you say, oh, that's probably not so good. I mean, compared with like the nice design, I see when we set up an environment, you can easily see, okay, are we compliant? Yes or no from one glimpse. Um, And it also makes it easy for people, right, who do not deal with software on a day-to-day basis, right? So if I'm a line lead, right, I'm actually focused on manufacturing, and this is what I do, this is what I'm good at, and I don't want to deal with a complicated setup. I can just say, okay, actually we're good to go, or no, we have a gap, and this is something we have to work on. So fairly easy overview. Um, Skills linked to the combination of lines, machines, job roles, etc. Right? So this is actually where it becomes interesting. So you have your operator, because you're an operator, you have a certain amount of skills that you need to have. Then you're working particular line, right? There's another bunch of requirements coming from. Then yeah, a certain machine you're operating, and tying it all together sounds very complex, but it's actually fairly easy to do that in a software solution like AG5. Alerts, right? You don't want to be caught down with your pants down, so to speak, right? It's expired, and then it's maybe a complex process to retrain people. If you could just get an email, right? So, hey, something is about to expire, do something about it. That would be actually nice to get this from your spreadsheet, but the spreadsheet doesn't do that. So that's something that sounds very simple and can make your life fairly easy. And then, of course, like the gold standard, right? You being integrated with your HR system, with your LMS system, so you're tying everything together. You don't have to manually work on the employees. We're pulling them in from your HR database. Skills are pulled in automatically. We synchronize the achievements, and then you can just map in AG5 and see, okay, are we compliant? Yes or no, or what do we need to work on? So I think if you have that in place, yeah, I think you're well prepared for anything that might come your way. Yeah. Do you have anything in the chat so far? Not yet.
No, unfortunately not. But
Yeah.
since we've been talking a lot about connected skills management, for some people who don't know what that is, if someone's unsure whether their operations are connected or not, what's a good sign that they're not?
Yeah, so that they're not. If you can manage it in in a spreadsheet, you are not. Yeah. So
Mhm.
if you have to manage it in 5 different Excel sheets, yes, then you are, but probably not in a best way, right? So if I have my spreadsheet with my 5 skills, my 5 people, yeah, okay, but then it's not a connected, complex operation I'm running. If I have to juggle between 5, 10, 15 different sheets and I'm getting a headache, then yes, but then maybe you want to do something about it.
And then I can imagine that it can only get like more complicated if you go with different production sites, right? So like
Yes,
five
exactly.
times five.
Yeah, yeah,
Imagine
yeah.
that.
It can really get complex quite easily, right? Or if you manage more than one team, right, in different sites. So then that becomes really challenging.
All right.
Yeah, how does it look like compared, right? So what kind of lens do we apply, right? So of course we look at the worker, right? So your frontline employee, do they comply with the requirements, right? And also not to put a burden on them, but making sure that they can work safely, they can work productively. So you can easily see thumbs up or down. And if there are gaps, you can see, okay, where are they coming from? How can we address them? Right, skills. So for us in AG5 terms, a skill is really umbrella term, right? So your certificates, your trainings, your SOPs, whatever there is, you can set it up and then really fine tune it. So you can keep it fairly simple, but you can also make it very complex depending on the demands of your operations, right? If something is expiring, if something is required for all of the people, for some of the people, in combination with other requirements. So everything there is, we can cover with the setup of skills. And then, of course, right, you can tie that to a machine, for example. Say, hey, this is our machine, the new, I don't know, laser we have, and this is what you need to know. And maybe in connection with a certain job role, you need to know more, you need to know less. So really tailoring it to your demands, right? So it's really making sure that you are staying on top of things if it comes to compliance and safety. Um, yeah, so I hope that there was not too much money luck because I'm actually not a slides person. I like to dive in. So what we're actually now going to do is we're going to jump into AG5. and go through a few simple examples here, right? So you have a production shift, right, from plant A to B. So you want to find someone, right, who can help you out in a different setup. Like I said, we also want to notify people, right, if something is expiring, etc. So we want to really be a connected workforce, making sure that information is flowing automatically. And then maybe we're going to set up a new machine, how that turns out, because I know it can be a huge hassle, right? So you have a new machine, you need to know new spreadsheets, new skills, etc. So, but it can actually be quite easy. So I'd say let's jump right into AG5 and take a look. So this is a demo environment here. So just some um, data we thought could fit different scenarios, different setups. So with employees here, with skills here, and then how it's organized. So we do have different roles, right? So people need to do or need to know certain stuff depending on whether they're an operator or they're a production expert. Of course, right? Everybody needs to have the GDPR certificate. And then there are certain machineries we have, right? So with machine, line assemblies. So I think the setup is quite intuitive. So with, for example, the Fusion Pro series here, we have Ryan, Gent, and Mirif associated with this machine. Right next to that, yes, they are also in the logistics teams. They are logistics expert on certain different levels. And then we have requirements associated with that. And if I, for example, look now at Jaren, right, I can see that he has a bunch of requirements, but as you can see, right, connected. So they are coming from different sources, right? So he has three requirements because he's working on the Fusion Pro series, but also due to his role or due to his team, etc., right? They're from different sources. They are requirements flowing together. And that ties in here into his unique profile with what he needs to comply with, right? He has a few gaps, which is unfortunate, but at least we know which the gaps are, so we can work on closing them. And yeah, this is kind of really the in theory complex setup, but made easy through what we can do in AG5. So the scenario I thought would be quite interesting is that we do have here the this machine, right? And we've currently three people working on that, right? They're good, they're nice people, but they say, hey, Timo, we're a bit overworked. We need more manpower, right? We need someone who can support us in this working this machine because I haven't been able to take a holiday for 3 months, and guys, that's not great. So we need someone who can also hop on the machine. So actually, we want to find out who can work this machine, right? So I do have what we call an expert finder. So just from the look of it, right, it's your internal Google, it's a search bar. And if I now search for this machine, right, it basically gives me a set of requirements that I've associated with this machine. So if you remember from the org structure, right, we said, okay, if you are associated with this machine, this is what you need to know. And this basically just breaks it down and does a search. And of course, right, with Ryan, Jent, and Mirif here. So, right, those are the people, if you remember, that are working on there. They're all compliant, good. And then we have a few other people here. So Liz, Quinton, Bram, they are our next best experts. So they comply with 2 out of the 3 requirements, right? So if I look now, for example, at Liz, he has 2 he complies with, but the machine line basics, they are missing. So if we just train him on the machine line basics, um, oh, sorry, I just wanted to access him, not the skill. So if we train him on the machine learning basics, so let's say, right, it's just a simple crash course we need to give him. So we think, hey, we've trained him here. Actually, he has done the course, And now if I go back to my search here, we now see perfect, right? Liz is now 100% compliant, and I could say, hey, perfect, you can now go and work on that machine and help out those colleagues. So I've prepared a little matrix here, right, showing the team who is
And
working.
Timo,
Yes.
that's called upskilling, right? That a lot of people or companies are looking for nowadays.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so you have kind of your workforce trained, but then it becomes okay. There's special requirements from special machines, and you only need to perform one or two trainings. But of course, you need to find okay, who is my best candidate, right? So I think that makes it fairly easy here, because now, right, this is the old kind of workforce for the machine. And now we want to add list to this machine because we've checked, okay, he can work on this one. And we go here and then we add a list to the machine. Right. Now he's also required to meet all those skills. And now if we look at here, right, he has been added here. And as we pre-checked, okay, he's compliant. So all is good. He can operate the machine. I think it's fairly simple, right? But looking at what we have here, so for example, Ram, right, another potential expert, right? So he's also meeting 2 out of the 3 requirements, and he's also missing the machine basics. So if I look at him and look at the machine basics, so I can see here, right, it's red. He doesn't have that. He's not compliant, but I can see here he used to have it. It expired, right? So he was trained on it, but then because I think it's a very complex training and needs to be overhauled every 6 months, right? It already expired. So maybe it would have been good if we would have gotten a notification say, hey, something is about to expire, and make sure you retrain your people, right? So that this scenario here just doesn't occur. And this is basically the second example where I want to show that we can really connect your workers and also make sure that you have a flow of information, right? Also to your supervisors, to your trainers, say, hey, something is about to expire, please take action, so that this scenario here, something right is missing because it expires, that this actually never really occurs. And this is what we call a workflow. And a workflow is something we have here. And it's to be frank, it's just a fancy term of notifying, right? So it's just a notification. So and machine learning basics notify
Alerts.
yeah, alerts. Okay. So it requires a trigger, so an if statement, and then an action, right? So if, then do something. So the trigger here could be, there's a bunch of different triggers, right? So depending how complex your system is or your setup is, we can deal with all kinds of scenario. But here we just want to see, hey, if something is missing or expiring, so if something might become a problem, then do something. Then we can say, hey, of course, we could say basically for all skills, right? Just shoot out notifications left and right, or for certain groupings, right? But here we are very targeted. We just, okay, only currently we are concerned with the machine basics. So our if statement is if the machine line basic skill, right? The problem child we just identified, if this one is going to expire or if it is missing somewhere, so someone is required to have it but doesn't, then do something, right? Then we want to perform an action. If we would have a complex setup, right, nicely integrated HR system, LMS system, what we could then do is just send an automated assignment to the LMS. No problem, easy peasy. But here we said, okay, right, first we go with a more basic setup. So we're just sending emails. And I can now send an email to either the employee, right? If he can perform the training himself, maybe it's just I don't know, a sheet he needs to read or a simple task. Or if the manager needs to schedule a training for him, maybe he needs to go somewhere on site to be trained. Or I have a dedicated trainer for that skill, right? So my machine line basics trainer, Frank. Yeah, so maybe I want to notify Frank, say, hey, prepare a new training. So all these people I could target here. Let's say, right, it's fairly box standard. I want to notify the manager. And then we could say, okay, qualification name. So we can really pick it then from AG5 directly. So if the name changes, right, this is reflected here, of course, and then is missing or going to expire. And of course, we want to address the person properly. So, hey, manager full name, because we're targeting the manager with that email here. And then for the employee.
Your name? Oh, for employee name. Nice.
Yeah, right. So then we say, okay, which skill for which employee is about to expire or missing? Yeah, please take action. Right.
This is great, by the way, Timo. I actually
Good luck.
haven't seen the template field. I know we used to just send out a message, and now we have these like different customized views that we could use. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
you can really tailor it, right? So that actually it's an email you want to act on, right? And not something generic and say, okay, meh, what the
Yeah.
hell? So right, and then now if I activate the workflow, now every time the trigger is true, right? So every time there's a skills gap or something is expiring for the machine basic skill, then we'll send out this email. And hopefully with that, we won't have any gaps on the machine basic line because we have multiple lines of defense, right? So first we see it in the metrics, right? Something's missing, something expiring. And if people don't act on that, right, we also have now a second line of defense as within the email. So then if something is there, you can really say, hey, why didn't you take proper action? I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I like that. So intuitive. But
Yeah.
just curious, can you go back to this action type and send email?
Yeah.
Can you send it through an SMS, or does it always have to be email now?
At the moment, it's email
It's
because
email.
this one
Okay.
is focusing on the desktop. But what's actually kind of promising for 2026 is our focus on the app, right? That you, for example, can have push
Yeah.
notifications, stuff like that. So also focus a bit more on the mobile application. For now, it's email, right? Or of course, the best thing is right directly integrate with your LMS, right? Then you don't need to send notification at all because you directly assign them to them. But expanding notifications we can send is definitely on the radar.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and then last but not least, because maybe you want to leave room for some questions at the end, is a new machine, right? So this is the machine we have spoken about so far, right? It's the laser fusion, and then I think I prepared already some. I think I called it the Future Pro, right? So we acquired a new machine, which is the Future Pro. And yeah, now we actually want to make sure that if people start working on this machine, they're compliant. And just want to quickly show you how easy it is to set up something like this. So, right, I want to add a new machine. And I just drag and drop a grouping in here. And then I give it a proper name, right? Some customers, they have really complex code structures, right? So this is the 00 whatever LVP. But if you don't have it, no problem, just have a name and code the same. You can structure it a bit, right? So we have it in alphabetical order. So if you say, hey, this one should be on top, right? Just the easy life hack, just throwing a prefix. And then for filtering purposes, right, you can give it a type so that you know, okay, this one is a job role, this one's a machine, so to get better overview. And yeah, with that we have set up our machine grouping. Now we basically say, okay, actually, there are a few things that you need to know if you're working that machine. So we just associate that, right? Just dragging and dropping this one in here. And now we've basically said, okay, this is what you need to know. So the cleaning, right, fairly easy. I know how to clean it or I don't. So it's a pass fail skill. For the operation and the setup, I thought, okay, maybe there's some experience levels, right? So it can be a beginner, it can be advanced, can be an expert. And let's say, right, if you're working this one, I want you to be advanced, right? Same with the setup. But maybe I say, if we're operating this machine, I want someone who is an expert there at all times, right? So in addition to that, I add one layer of complexity. I say, okay, for the operations, actually, I need someone on expert level, but I only need one. So now I've have a setup with, okay, everyone who's working that machine needs to know how to clean it, needs to know to operate it on an advanced level, needs to know how to set it up on an advanced level. But at all times, I need at least one person who is an expert in this, right? And good luck trying this setup in a spreadsheet. And here I did it in 30 seconds,
So
right?
easy.
And
Yeah.
now if I associated some people, right? So we have Robin working this machine, we have Naomi working this machine. I can see now from Naomi, right, from the Future Pro, he's getting 3 requirements. He has all other obligations, right? But fairly easy. And now I set up a matrix for my Future Pro. I think hope you give me credits for the name. I thought it's a quite cool name. So I take the 2 people working there, maybe want to see which job role they're working. And then I map it against the requirements I just set up, right, against the 4 requirements. And then I have my Future Pro 1 compliance overview. And it's fairly, right, small metrics. We don't want to overwhelm people. But here I see now, right, they both need to know how to clean it. They need to be able to operate it at least on level 2. But in addition, right, one expert and the setup. So if I now start adding results, right, I've trained Naomi to clean it. He also knows how to operate it, right? He's now advanced. And here he also knows how to do this on advanced level. So, right, perfect, we're compliant here. But we are still missing, right, the additional requirement we set. So again, we are really on a quite advanced setup here. Saying, okay, no, in addition, we want someone, right, who is on an expert level. And of course, Robin, because we're in level green, is an expert, right? I upload maybe his expert certificate. And then he hasn't been trained on the cleaning and the setup, but operating, he knows everything he needs to know about. And we also satisfy the requirement we've just set. And also again, right, if we make any changes to the skills, the requirements setup, the people working there, it's automatically shown in our compliance overview here. And basically, I thought we spent, I don't know, probably 20 minutes in AG5. And right, we've searched for expert. It's okay, right? We need more hands on a given machine. Fairly easy to find someone. Then we identified we lost a few experts because the skills expired. How do we prevent this? Set up a workflow, and then this tying together a new machinery. How that's done in a minute, maybe 2. Yeah, that's how you can do things.
Maybe less than a minute for you, but for the new users, maybe a bit longer. But
After 2
after
trainings
your
with me,
onboarding,
you can do it in 2 minutes. Yeah. And again, right,
yeah,
that's also what I say. So if you say, hey, we have 30 new machines, right? How do we set them up properly? You send your dedicated solution engineer an email. We're going to set up a call, and then right, we take you by the hand and walk you through that. So we try not to throw you into the call.
that's great.
Yeah.
I
Do we have
think
any
you
questions
showed
on this
how
one?
um I do, but I was just gonna give you a compliment that you showed how to connect workers, skills, machines r- really well in AG5 when you showed the organizational structure, how easy it was to drag and drop the required skills and the workers along to the respective machines. That was, yeah, that was very easy.
Thanks.
Um, yeah. Um, I am curious though, like how long does it take to implement AG5 for a typical manufacturing side, and what kind of factors would help to speed things up or slow it down?
Yeah, right. That's kind of the the question I get with each kickoff, right? And so the average is for the onboarding is between 6 and 8 weeks, but only because we take it like one meeting at 1 week, right? But I'm also working with a customer at the moment who said, right, we kicked it off, I think 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, and they said, right, we have audit coming up. We fly trainers from the UK to the US, and we need to be ready by what is it, 6th of October, I think. And so, yeah, perfect. We can do that. Of course, it requires a bit more time commitment from your side. So we maybe have 2 or 3 calls a week, but we can do that. That's no problem. So we usually can go your speed. If you want to go prepared into the onboarding, ideally have your data ready, spend some thoughts on, okay, what are our skills, how do we rate them, what is required for which role, at least have a general idea of that. But again, I've seen it all, right? I've seen onboardings where that wasn't in place. Often it takes a bit longer because you're figuring that out on the fly. And of course, right, if you come in super prepared, we can get you up and running in a week. I think it's the fastest we did. Of course, right? If you say, hey, we want to also be integrated with our HR system, with the LMS, want to have a SSO sign in, and also connect to your planning tool. Yeah, that takes a bit longer. But also there, I think we can meet any timeline that's given. But because you might have an audit
Yeah.
coming up and you want to have your new shiny software in place before that, yeah, we're able to do that.
Yeah, it sounds like some customers they have the luxury to wait, to have their own
Yeah,
speed, to do it at their own speed, and then
yeah,
some of them have an audit to be
indeed.
prepared
Yeah.
for,
Yeah. Usually,
right? They have to show how
yeah,
they're
even
complying.
if you just say, hey, but with all the time in the world, right, we set a target and say, okay, let's aim for this average and say, okay, in 8 weeks we want to be live to not drag it out into the internal future. But
Mhm.
yeah, of course we can go the speed that the customer needs.
Awesome.
Yeah, then I think, right, I talked already a bit on integrations and how this is kind of the ultimate gold standard, right? That AG5 really ties everything together. And the only thing you need to do basically is set your requirements, right? So what do people need to know? This is basically what you set in AG5, and then we pull in your HR data. So also, then we lock it, right? So that's HR system is a single source of truth. Everything flows in automatically. Um, right, the basic HR data, but also their job role, their department, their team, right? Whatever is relevant. So that is kind of the first step I usually advise if you have a bit more. Like, of course, if you have your 10 people, right, not needed. But once you work with 100 people, more than having an HR integration is really nice and makes your life easier. Also makes it a bit more bulletproof, right? So, because you have your source of truth. Then the LMS, right? So maybe your anti-bribery training, your compliance training, first aid, etc. It has online components so that we pull, first of all, the skills, right? So you don't have to set up the skills manually. Then, of course, the achievements. So if you have done your yearly online compliance training, right, that information is flowing in directly and no chance of that getting lost in translation and it's not there, etc. No, you've done it. We pull it in. And then, right, we've also spoke about that, right, some things expire. So then you have your compliance training year. So if that becomes sign you directly in your LMS, so then it's completely bulletproof that unless of course, right, you don't do it. But other than that, we are 100% sure that you have compliance there. We do have, right, with the insights, some, I think, nice basic data visualizations, right? You can see a trend line, how's your team doing? But of course, we offer you the possibility to pull out all the data we have there, visualize it in your own visualization tool, um, so that you can do proper presentation for your high level management. And then, of course, right, with workforce planning, we can also connect. So, right, I've also worked with a customer who, yeah, you need a pre-authorization to access a certain working area. So we could basically send the information to that authorization software saying, okay, this person is meeting all the requirements for this working area. So you can just basically scan your badge and the door opens. Yeah, there's all kinds of fancy things we can do when it comes to integrations to really have this connected workforce in this complex environment for manufacturing. That's increasing digital, right? So let's be real. That's something um, that yeah that is the new normal. Anything on integrations, or I hope that was not too technical, not too complex, right? I'm trying to bridge always the gap between working with the technical part and then also the business
The
part, right?
non-technical
That's my job.
parts.
Exactly.
Perhaps, yeah, we could go to the commercial part, the ROIs, that
Yeah.
people care about, the
So
business impact.
yeah, right. I'm in the lucky position that my role is totally non-commercial, right? But of course, right, we have commercial team who also track if the customers working with actually achieve what they set out to do with AG5. So if your quarterly business review and say, okay, actually, this is the amount of hours we want to save, right? These are, of course, like kind of averages. Some are above that, some under that, but usually we get the feedback saying, hey, it's really a time saver. Or no, that's always the case, right? So there's never a scenario where with that you spend more time on compliance because, right, then trying rather than figuring out a spreadsheet that I don't know, your predecessor set up and you have no clue what it's telling you, trying to figure that out. You have a setup that shows you an easy icons, right? We're good, or we need to do something. Audit prep, of course, is then, I wouldn't say it's non-existing, right? But it's much easier, right? 90%. So you're spending a fraction of the time on your audit prep, and you can actually get in there with a good feeling. We also get feedback then from our customers that the auditors were quite impressed. So that's always really nice to hear that they could impress the auditors. Yeah, right. Once you are through the onboarding, all your Excel files are crossed out because they're migrated into AG5 and you will never want to touch them. And again, I don't know these calculations, but yeah, it does make sense, right? You're paying, of course, the license fee for AG5, but compared to what you would otherwise spend on fines, on other things you have to invest for compliance, it's also a huge cost saver. So consider that a saving and not an expenditure.
And Timo,
So Frankie is
yeah,
happy.
once, yes, Frank, once AG5 is implemented, like what kind of results do you see that do you think that manufacturing teams care about the most, besides the obvious like time savers and um yeah, faster audit preps? What kind of changes do they usually notice first?
Yeah, so right that as a team lead or line lead or shift lead, I can really focus on my team and the actual manufacturing, and I can either use the app, right, to see okay, how are things doing, so I don't have to hassle back to the office, or I can quickly log in the morning, say okay, those are the trainings we've planned, this is what I need to do, and right, I mean, even though I personally think it's a nice shiny software and I like to spend time on it, I do get that other people want to spend as little time as possible in that because they have other stuff to do, other duties to perform, so to speak. And that's basically the feedback that we get. That's also like really positively received, not only by the senior management who decided to implement that, but actually from the people who work with that they actually say, okay, that is making my job a little easier and not just another software to juggle with. So yeah, the
Actually
feedback we
making a
receive there
difference.
after an onboarding is
Yeah,
always very positive. So yeah.
that's good.
Yeah, booking an intro.
Think
To be in all transparency, right? It's probably not going to be with me because usually I come in when
after
yeah,
after they sign the
it's
deal.
after they sign a deal, or you have your own data, right? And it's really complex, and our ACs say, hey, we need a dedicated solution engineer to make sense of that. And but I do join also calls with prospects from time to time, right? If it's a more complex setup, I do that. But a demo, that's what our account executives can give, and just right to not overwhelm you, just give you a brief introduction, say, hey, this is what it is, this is what it does, and does it actually meet what you're looking for? So no strings attached there.
It's good to clarify that. Thanks, Timo.
Yeah, I think that's your part, right? So I think you're gonna send out a survey or something.
So yeah, more or less. Well, yeah, like once this session ends, you feel free to complete a brief survey. Let us know how we've done. Let us know if Timo has done a good job, if this session was useful, or if you just want to chat with us. If you want to see how your environment looks in AG5, or you want to review your challenges with us, we can do that. And yeah, you can always contact us. So thank you again so much, Timo. You
Yeah,
did a
very
great
welcome.
job.
Always a pleasure chatting with you. So thanks for hosting.
Thank you. I hope you guys have a great week ahead then. Talk to you
Yeah.
soon.
Cheers to
Bye.
everyone. Bye bye.